some people. Hey everybody, I hope you guys can hear. This is Craig Tucker. I'm a natural resources policy consultant with the Karuk tribe. I'm here with my colleague Erica Terrence. She's a public information officer for the Klamath Prescribed Fire Training Program, which she'll explain to you in some detail. We also have Bill Tripp, who is the director of the Karuk Tribe Department of Natural Resources. So I think what we want to do is spend about 15 minutes talking at you and then spend 15 minutes talking with you. So we want to roll out our Trex program, explain what the purpose of it is, and then let you guys ask us whatever questions you may have about Trex. I think we're going to start by just saying that over the years, the Middle Klamath has really emerged as sort of this epicenter of a national movement around prescribed fire and cultural burning. There's been a real effort all across the West and really all across America to use fire to prepare our communities to withstand wildfire events and promote watershed health. And that's one of the reasons why this Klamath Training Exchange Program happens here in Orleans. So I want to ask Erica to talk a little bit about what Great Trex is and what it does.
Sure. Thanks, Greg. So this is the Klamath River Trex we're talking about. There are Trex events all over the country. The Trex model was originally designed by the Nature Conservancy and has sort of rippled out and being used in lots of places across the country. But this is the largest prescribed fire training exchange in the country. That's what Trex stands for, Prescribed Fire Training Exchange. So
what are we exchanging?
Great question. Skills, knowledge, a lot of intergenerational knowledge about how to manage with fire instead of just putting fires out all the time, how to put fire on the landscape in a good way at the right times of the year. And the way that we do that is we bring people from all over the country and even all over the globe to exchange those skills, transfer that knowledge. People come from lots of different agencies, lots of different backgrounds. People come from as far away as Spain, different tribes around California and the West. That's actually a really interesting and exciting part of Trex, I think, is that the partners that host Trex are able to share out knowledge about, how to reintroduce fire, in your home territory. And so many people, especially tribes, are taking that knowledge back and working on doing that where they come from. And so I think the impacts are much larger than just the 2 weeks of training that we do. The model that we use is really an incident command system. And so we use the same system that firefighters use when they put out fires. And so it's kind of a way to get organized, and we use a chain of command. And so there's one person who makes a decision if that's what's called for. But it's a model where there's a lot of sharing of knowledge and information and a lot of supporting each other. I think part of what Trex is about too is getting comfortable with fire. And so, there's a lot of fear of fire out there, and we've been putting fires out for so long that part of it is just, getting a chance to do it hands-on, hold the torch or hold the McLeod and the Pulaski, the shovel, and normalizing it.
So why in the Klamath? So again, there's this need all across America, but the Klamath has become the sort of epicenter for this. And I think there's a good answer to that, and it's because that's where the Karuk tribe is. So the Karuk tribe have been using these techniques or permutations on this theme literally for millennia, thousands and thousands of years. So Bill, can you talk a little bit about the role that fire plays in Karuk culture?
Yeah, we've got a very significant and long-lasting relationship with fire here in our Aboriginal territory. Our creation stories talk a lot about how our relationships formed with plants and animals and ecological processes, such as fire. So, you know, when we're young, we're taught a lot about, you know, those stories and cultural expressions and in joining our ceremonial activities. You know, we learn about those interconnections out there in the environment from a very early age. You know, a lot of people, most people in the world don't get exposed to, you know, much more than roasting marshmallows by a campfire until they're 18 years old, and they can, you know, apply for a job with the fire crew. At that point, they become a practitioner with no background. You know, colored people have background from a very early age, you know, burning with their great grandmother or whatever that may be. You know, traditionally, we're supposed to have more fire occurring as part of our world renewal ceremonies. These are landscape level burns that would be conducted with as few as, you know, 3 young men. You know, it helped keep things um, safe, and it helped to serve as our reminder of the outcomes that we see when we do this and fulfilling our responsibility to our other relations out there in the natural world.
So maybe kind of going from that is, I mean, I think a lot of people have these questions of, really, why would you
Burn on
set
purpose.
fires, right? Like, you
Why
know,
would you burn on purpose?
why would you burn on purpose? So maybe talk a little bit about why we burn, Bill.
Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons why a person should burn. You know, in the contemporary context, you know, people you know, like to burn to protect their homes and communities. You know, traditionally that was a big part of why we did it. You know, we lived in wooden houses, permanent structures here in Coder Country, just like people do all over the country. And so, you know, there's you know, you promote watershed health. You know, that's frequent low to mixed severity fires help to maintain the habitat dynamics out there to support biodiversity, and helps to create food for, you know, for the plants and the animals that are also our food. And so in us helping to feed them, they in turn feed us. You know, that gets into some of the cultural benefit. You know, there's, you know, we have cultural practices, you know, like basket weaving, that, you know, those materials that we use out there aren't the right size. They're not they're not pliable. Their molecular makeup changes when they're burned to make them usable. You know, they get bugs in them if they're not burned. The same with like for some of the staple food sources like salmon and acorns are the 2 primary staples in Karuk diet. And you know, smoke in the air reduces water temperatures. You know, burning off the small vegetation that uses a lot of the surface water can increase flows. You know, for the acorns, you know, it again, that proper timing, you can burn when the insect infested bugs are on the ground, and kill those bugs so they're not there to infest the next year's crop, and you can have, you know, more acorns not only for yourself but for the animals that rely on them too. So it's kind of a circular economy out there in a socio ecologic system that humans are a part of.
Sorry to interrupt you, Bill. Go ahead, Erica.
So it's part of what we're saying, right, Bill, is that we're promoting watershed health. I think you touched on that quite a bit. We're protecting communities, and then this is a really significant cultural practice for the Karuk people. Do we get that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Craig, did you want to share some resources? I know we have some resources available that people can peruse through to learn more if they're curious. One of the things that's really maybe particularly interesting about Trex is how hands-on it is. We typically do it as a 2-week burning and learning event, but this year we've extended it to 7 weeks, and that's pretty exciting. That means that we're better positioned to capitalize on the burn window when it comes along. And that's important, especially since we have a rain event coming along that's going to give us a lot of rain.
Now close the proverbial burn window.
And so basically when we do this intentional burning, what we're doing is trying to hit the window between when the first rains come along that provide enough moisture that it's safe to burn, and when those really wetting rains come along that make it so wet you can't get things to burn at all.
We kind of hit it right this year.
Right. Well, hard to say.
Hard to say.
But we try. So anyway, the 7-week window is pretty exciting, and where we might have, 80, 90 people for 2 weeks. This year we have it staggered out and people are cycling in and out, and we'll be trying to jump on the good weather windows as they come along to either do broadcast burning or burn piles, which sets us up to do more broadcast burning further out in the future.
So I just want to take a few more minutes before we open it up for questions, but I do think we should tell people, we're making a lot of progress. We're really proud of what we've accomplished in Middle Klamath, but what's next? Where do we need to go from here? So Bill, you want to talk a little bit about where is it we need to go from here in order to do the kind of prescribed fire and cultural burning that we aspire to?
Well, there's a lot of things that are coming next. We've demonstrated that we can do this. To hit the window right, we probably would have started about 2 weeks earlier this year, because the nighttime humidity recovery really started to kick back up in mid-September. So I think that we have, in order to really scale up, which is what we need to do to enact meaningful change, we have to address some policy barriers. There's issues with the way air quality is managed. Traditional burn windows involve burning at night and things like that, when air managers don't like to see any smoke in the air. The reality of the matter is the human health component involved here is getting the major impact at hazardous levels during these major wildfire events. And if we can break that up throughout the year, then we can start to alleviate those effects by having a little bit more in a controlled setting. That's just one example of a policy barrier. There are many. Capacity is another one. That's one of the things that Trex is addressing. It's helping to build that diversified workforce and bringing us all together so we can do this as one, just as human people out there getting this work done. There's more to capacity than just that human element. We're so rural. It's only 2%, of the land base here is private or tribal, and 98% is U.S. As National Forest System administered lands, and so that doesn't leave a lot of area for people to live, to take these jobs, and for people for organizations like the Tribe and MCWIC and San River Restoration Council to construct facilities to run their programs, to really get to that scale. And all of that takes financial resources. You need, we've been really successful in getting grants, but we really need reliable and steady revenue streams to address all these issues. And then finally, we need help from people like you that can help us build a social license to get this work done. If the public doesn't support it, it doesn't happen. And that's where you come in, is you can help us tell this story. And we have the social license here. We're people in the community call the air district and say, hey, are you going to be letting people burn this year, because I'm tired of all this wildfire smoke. People are happy to see it in this community, which makes it a good place for a pilot, for establishing maybe a formal prescribed fire training center that's led by our local tribe and community-based partners. You look at people in San Francisco that are just seeing a lot of smoke and things like that, and seeing whole forests burn down in the news and all of that kind of a storyline. it has a tendency to push policy the other way and drive fear of fire. And so, we don't need to educate the masses. We need to inform the masses that this is a good thing, and it's gonna be the solution to the major problems that we're seeing today.
I'm muted this time. You mentioned the Trex Partners. Do you want to just briefly talk about who those partners are?
Yeah, I mean, we have the Western Klamath Restoration Partnership that we run the Trex through is basically an activity of that partnership, and I can't even name. I wouldn't want to try to name all the partners in that, because
Sure.
I would probably miss a dozen of them and offend somebody.
Yeah.
But locally we do have, we have Forest Service folks that engage. We did our first broadcast burning this year during Trex on a project that was collaboratively developed by the Western Klamath Restoration Partnership that has the Forest Service, Mid-Klamath Watershed Council, Salmon River Restoration Council, the Karuk Tribe, and the Klamath Forest Alliance, and many others. And so, CAL FIRE comes and has conversations with us. The air districts are involved. That just the partnership is probably one of the most diverse and growing partnerships out there that we see today.
But we should give a shout out to local partners like Mid-Klamath Watershed Council, the Salmon River Restoration Council. We have had a good relationship this year so far, working with Six Rivers and Klamath National Forests. But the Nature Conservancy is a big piece of it, but there are dozens, literally, of groups that get involved and help.
And the Nature Conservancy has a big national network called the Fire Learning Network that's kind of facilitating this type of learning around fire.
Well, I do want to, so we're about 20 minutes in, I do want to give people opportunities, because we can talk all day about this because we love this stuff. But are any of the folks on the phone, I don't know if you can unmute yourself or raise your hand and I'll unmute you if you have a question for Bill or Erica.
Or you could ask a question in the chat as well.
Yeah. Bill, I see Bill Choi from Siskiyou Daily News. I see you out there with your mic off. Can you?
Yeah, I just wanted to double check the dates. Is this 7 weeks or is this a little less time?
It's 7 weeks in our planning, but really we're burning when nature sort of makes it an option to burn. So we're not burning throughout the 7 weeks. We're just targeting that date range for burning, either broadcast burning or burning piles, depending on the weather. Does that help?
Right.
It's a guessing game, right? When will the burn window be open to us? It's a predicting the weather kind of game, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it could start as early as October 18th.
Actually, it's already underway, so it's a good question. But yeah, it is certainly going to be happening into next week, and weather permitting out into November as well.
Okay. The reason I was asking is in the press release it said Trex will run from October 18th to 29th. That's why I was checking.
Yeah, I think that's the dates that we think most likely fire will actually be on the ground. It doesn't include all the other bits.
Yeah, what I would suggest, Bill, if you're interested in getting out to see what's going on the ground or just covering the story, is get in touch with me and I can help get you the info about when the action is happening and when is the best time to come out or to talk to people who are burning.
She'll give you a yellow shirt.
Yep.
So this is one of the lessons learned this year, is that in previous years we've just selected the first 2 weeks of October for this event. This year folks wanted to bump it back a little later because we really had a lot of priorities on piles. We've got about 800 and some odd acres of pile backlog that we need to catch up just from the SOMS project. If you look at the entire 1.2 million acre WKRP landscape, there's a significantly more than that need to be burned. And so that was kind of our priority this year. But things just aligned, and people were ready to go. And so the model shifted to the 7-week window. And so we ended up starting somewhere around October 1st anyways.
Let's see, Jacqueline Opalak. Let's see if I can turn. Does that work? Can you unmute yourself, Jacqueline?
Yes, I'm unmuted. Thank you. Thanks for doing this. My name is Jacqueline. I'm from the Lost Coast Outpost in Humboldt County. Hi. I'm wondering, so the press release said that this is the biggest training in the United States. I'm wondering, biggest in what terms? Is it biggest in terms of the number of trainees, or biggest in terms of the amount of land that will be prescribed burned? I was wondering if you could elaborate on that.
Bill, what would your answer to that be?
It's biggest as far as number of participants and complexity of the program. We're one of the few that have built this program as a type 3 incident management organization, which is typically the type of thing you see on a wildfire. For example, the McCash incident is transitioning to a type 3 incident here in the coming week. And so it's the largest in the amount of people and the amount of areas, separate areas we may be burning in simultaneously.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions folks have for us?
Now, how many people do you expect to come?
Sure, 150, I think.
I think you're correct.
I think it's about 150 participants. And I know we had participants from dozens of states across the US, and even had people from as far as Spain coming out to visit. And that's not abnormal. We've had folks from Latin America, South America, and Australia attend Trex burn in the past. So it does attract a lot of attention globally in this prescribed fire world.
Yeah, I think people find Trex pretty inspiring. And so you find people who come back year after year too, because they like the place and the people, and they like feeling like they're helping to do something good.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of people say that they've been to different Trexes, but that this Trex is the most focused on cultural resources in addition to other reasons you might burn. Would you say that's true, Bill? That consistent with your?
Yeah, between this one and the Iraq Trex events, yes, I would say that that's kind of what makes this area unique. With the Iraqs being our neighbors and it being an indigenous led event as well.
Anybody have additional questions?
I do. So our trainees, do they ultimately participate in burning? Or like they do? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And just understanding this prescribed burn world, there are these sort of levels of, accreditation for what your skill set is and what you're legally can take on. And so you have to get trained so many hours in order to reach certain accreditation goals. So it creates that opportunity for people to join in and do that. And then for us, we do have a labor shortage here in the Middle Klamath to pull off these burns. And so in exchange for folks here in the Middle Klamath sharing this information, we're getting a temporary large workforce that helps us put these burns on. So that's kind of part of the exchange as well.
And incidentally, some of the agencies that are tasked with managing the landscape, like the Forest Service, really struggle with that as well. So Trex plays a valuable role in helping other agencies to get good fire on the ground.
And do trainees have to enter the training with any background, or can people kind of come in totally new?
That's a great question. Yeah, everyone is required to put in 40 hours of training. It's called the Basic 40 or Fire School, sometimes you hear it called. And that ranges all over the place, from fire safety to fire behavior to human factors. in firefighting and fire lighting. And there is some, yeah, so you need your basic 40. You need to show that you can carry 45 pounds on your back for 3 miles in 45 minutes or less. And you need to learn to deploy a fire shelter just as a worst case scenario training. And that's the basic training you need to participate in Trex.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
I don't know if I could do that.
It's not easy.
I bet.
There are some more moderate versions though. You can, depending on what position you're filling, you can do a moderate or a light work capacity test.
I'll take the light. So I dropped into the, I hope everybody can see the chat box. I do have a link to a document that's a little bit of a bibliography of sorts. You can find, you should be able to download photos and videos if you want to use them in your reporting. Some reports, studies, story maps, a lot of good stuff there. We are available if you want to call us, call me, call Erica. I can connect you with Bill if need be, if you have questions. But we do appreciate you guys' interest in this, and certainly call us anytime because we love to talk about fire. And as Bill said, I think getting the word out through the media is really key for us having that social license to keep putting fire on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Any other parting words from you guys, my colleagues?
We do also take people out on the ground. So if that's something that's of interest to you, get in touch. There's no substitute for kind of seeing it yourself, I think.
But you don't have to pass a pack test to go visit.
You do not. You just have to wear the yellow shirt and the green pants and the hard hat.
Anything you got for a parting shot, Bill?
No, just appreciate the time and the assistance telling the story.
Right on. All right, we'll sign off. Thank you, everybody,
all.
for participating.
Thank you.